No clickbait. Protect your teammates by being the front line. Don't just block. You're a hunter, a daredevil. Fight with flair. Fly in and duel gods. Laugh off hits that would obliterate your teammates. Pick them up and shield them. You can do this. Take the fight to them. Here's the quick build. Prismatic Hunter with a Foe Tracer Sortarachne or Syntheseps class item, until its return with Overflow Trench Barrel, Vexcalibur, and Abyssal Edge with Slice or Flash Counter and Redirection. Soak Strike with Gambler's Dodge, Threaded Spike, and Grapple. Your aspects are Stylish Executioner and Winter's Shroud. Your fragments are Blessing, Dawn, Bravery, Protection, Purpose. Here's the armor and artifact mods you'll be using. For a longer breakdown, stick around. For gameplay, skip to here. Okay, let's get into the extended breakdown. You might ask, is this another tank hunter build? Kind of. But it's very different in how it plays. It is a reactive build with an array of responses to any obstacle. You have multiple forms of damage reduction at any time. Between Faceted Protection, Transcendence, Woven Mail, Winter Shroud, Void Over Shield, and Sever, you can take the big hits and keep going. That's 15%, 20%, 45%, 50%, 70%, and 40%. 92% DR is not bad. Of course, you aren't going to have these up all the time. Just having a couple is going to be good enough for most situations. Woven Mail and Void Overshield is a lot of damage reduction, or just Woven Mail and Sever, which you'll have up almost constantly. On top of this, you have a high handling glaive. This lets you block hits reactively. You can shift between aggressive and defensive play immediately, allowing you to spec into the aggression rather than play in a passive manner. I'm not playing safe. I am pushing myself into direct danger knowing I can deal with it and won't get one-shot. Certain enemies can wear you down, but you will always have the ability to respond to them. Along with your tankiness, you have a shotgun and sword with good burst and sustain damage. These are capable of taking down any champion in a single rotation due to Foe Tracer and Radiant. This makes it easy to burst a champion very quickly and to deal with tankier targets. There's also enough forgiveness to allow you to not execute perfectly and still pull it off. The point of this build is to have a toolkit with abilities for each situation, one that flows into itself for smooth gameplay while remaining extremely effective. When you grapple melee an orange bar or higher enemy, you receive Radiant, Trench Barrel, Foe Tracer, and Woven Mail. This allows you to safely begin firing your shotgun into them. You don't need to worry about barrier champions because of the Radiant. You can then proc Trench Barrel again, or keep firing, or finish them off with your sword. By killing an enemy with grapple melee, you receive volatile and unraveling rounds. Of course, this season you receive unraveling rounds on Ord pickup with the artifact, but these alongside Radiant allow you to do anti-barrier and makes your weapons proc Stylish Executioner. So it's very easy for you to slip into stealth if you need a moment to vanish and take a breather. On top of this, your Threaded Spike severs enemies while proccing Trench Barrel, Radiant, and Foe Tracer. You often don't need to even worry about catching it because Transcendence is very easy for you to get. Sometimes though, there's burst damage from multiple angles. This is where Vexcalibur comes in. I am specifically using Vexcalibur over Edge of Action for several reasons. First, it allows you to build light energy extremely quickly with a shotgun ranged attack. It also gives light energy with each tick of the overshield allies receive. This allows you to run Strand for everything else and still build Transcendence very, very quickly. On top of this, Vexcalibur has extremely high handling. The response time of a glaive is very important if you're intending to block attacks or weave it between other weapons. This allows you to see an attack coming and block it by swapping to Vexcalibur. By having all these defensive options, you can better play aggressively. When you know you can deal with the threats at hand, you're encouraged to fight them. Finally, your sword. Abyssal Edge is another important piece of your toolkit. You can use the Flash Counter Redirection combo to stack up redirection, but I didn't really find it to be necessary. I can get redirection stacks with light and heavy swipes and have it available for big burst damage. Having Slice allows me to debuff enemies I'm not able to throw a threaded spike at. I'll often use it to fight bosses, swapping to Excalibur to block bigger hits. It can also be used as quick burst on champions when you don't have enough damage with your shotgun. With a single Lucent Blade, you have a solid charge rate on your glaive and sword. Given the amount of damage reduction effects you have, it doesn't matter too much losing a single resist. If you need to play support for your team, you can provide them with overshields. If you need to get someone up, you can stand in front of them and block with Excalibur or sword to keep them safe. Invisibility also helps. You clutch up on runs because you have the tools to do so. What's more is that as long as there are enemies, you can keep fighting them. There is very little downtime and always something you can do. You also have an excellent clearing super. Let's talk artifact. This season's artifact does help this build. It makes it more powerful than it would be normally and now makes it even more resilient. It still works without the artifact, and that is by intent. I want it to feel good and reliable even without the artifact. However, I would be remiss not to talk about it. This season's artifact allows you to get additional energy for your super by defeating severed enemies with a weapon matching your super. So you should be getting your super more often. It's a little harder to notice the benefit though, so I'll have to take Bungie's word on how much energy you get. Alternatively, with Act 3's to Shreds, you are essentially invincible. It provides you with additional sustain, free woven mail, and extra healing for yourself. With Defibrillating Blast, you add a bunch of damage when you fly in after stunning a champ. It's useful to have and can guarantee kills. The rest of the perks you don't really need to focus on. You generally don't need any extra heavy or special ammo, and with Special Finisher you're good. If you find yourself needing them, feel free to run them. With 2 Psyops this season, I recommend Certarachne on the exotic class item because you can use it with the spear to give yourself woven mail whenever you blink. And there are a lot of instances of burst damage. So let's put it all together fighting a boss. Woven mail and threaded spike mean you're taking significantly less damage from them. Transcendence and Facet of Protection reduce this further. The boss's instant kill methods are now just chips off your HP bar. You can take stomps without flinching, and Transcendence means you have constant woven mail and sever from your grenade and melee, which also enhances all your shotgun and sword damage. Your dodge stops even bigger hits. And if they hit you with something even harder, you can just block. When you know the pattern, it gets easier to do. And when you can keep yourself alive, it gets easier to keep your team alive. If the boss is focusing on you, while you duel it, your teammates get to deal with the rest. Where is this build not good? It suffers in content where you need to shoot at ranged or flying targets. Shriekers admittedly feel terrible. You can always swap your heavy out. It'll be a little less good for flow, but it'll provide you with an option to shoot the meatball on Lake of Shadows. For everything else, it's very capable of doing excellent work and closing the distance. It may not do as much damage as Lord of Wolves or Consecration Titan or Storm's Keep, but this isn't intended to compete so much as it is to feel like an amazing mixture of tools flowing between each other. So, let's talk about how it feels to play a tank in Destiny. In Destiny, there are aggro mechanics, but most of these mechanics are knowing how a given enemy works, proximity, and dealing with their attacks. For example, you can dip in and out of Savathun's range to force her to trigger Nova Warp and drop a Nova Bomb at her feet. This stops her from using her more dangerous abilities. Or you know a boss will stomp or attempt to melee you when you're close enough. You can see this Hive Sentinel in Super goes between 2 attacks, slamming his shields together when I'm close enough and tossing 2 shields, one after another. Unstoppable ogres fire their laser and stomp. So when you know these things, you can react appropriately. If you know a boss is about to stomp, you can block it. Or if you have enough defensive buffs up, you can just take the damage and fight through it, saving your block for a more dangerous hit. Ideally, you want to use your block when you see a hit coming you don't want to take. I would split this into 2 types of hits: high consistent damage and high burst damage. Ogres, wizards, and shriekers are examples of high consistent damage. Even through damage reduction, the damage is high enough to stack up very, very quickly. You'll need to block it and go invisible or stagger them or kill them. Stomps, slams, and super attacks are examples of high burst damage. Without resistances, you'll die to these, and even with resistances, they can often chip away at health, leaving you low enough that other chip damage will be able to take you down. These are both extremely important to be aware of, and how limiting your exposure to enemy hits can create more opportunities to be aggressive. Because it is exceedingly important to be aggressive when you have a good defensive setup. You don't hold the block button to sit there and quote-unquote protect your teammates by holding aggro. You hold the block button to prevent an attack that'll stop you from hitting the enemy, and then start hitting them again. You hold the block button to give your allies an overshield so they don't die. You hold the block button to find a way out of a bad spot when you're low on health. Whenever you block, you should also be doing one or more other things to assist your team. If you aren't taking enemies off the field, you should have a very good reason not to be. If you are just blocking enemies, you are just sitting there. Yes, enemies shooting you are not shooting your allies, but you also aren't killing them. So I want to be very clear when I say this. It's so important to fight and keep fighting. The best way to ensure enemies are out of commission is that they are all dead. Block what you have to, then fight. So, the gameplay loop and what separates this build from others. Given all of your resistances, you have tools to survive where most people wouldn't dare to. You grapple in, punch, fire, 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 and then some more if needed. Threaded spike, fire, fire, fire. Or if you want to stack resist and debuffs immediately, for the more hard-hitting targets, you throw threaded spike and grapple in. You'll likely catch your spike rather than meleeing, but your spike still counts for trench barrel. Because most of your build is dedicated to strand, Excalibur is the only way for you to get light energy. But as I've said, it's very good at giving you light energy. So you can get Transcendence at your convenience and pop it to just get your abilities back whenever you'd like. This also means your abilities aren't a huge loss or waste as long as you can get Transcendence up. These clips are meant as a showcase for how easy it is for you to survive while being proactive fighting a variety of enemies. Fighting enemies saves your allies. Look at this. Kel'Garath has an overhead slam and a straight down slam. The overhead slam has more lead up and will kill you through glaive block if you're right in front of him because it hits behind you. But you can jump back and block and negate it entirely or get above him. You can just block the downward slam. Suddenly a scary boss becomes one you can handle. You don't need to block all the time. There are opportunities to stun him with damage, freezes, unstoppable hits, etc. I don't want you to get scared of a bad situation or panic and just hold down the block button without thinking of what comes next. You are the person your team relies on to clutch up. You're the tank who will get them up. And sometimes just blocking and giving them shield with Excalibur may be enough, but in others, you'll need to use more and more of what you know. It's a good feeling, knowing you've got this. You can do this. It looks bad, but you can pull it off. Dip in and out of the fray, take the hits, and take out targets to make your team's lives easier. Substitutions. You could conceivably use any shotgun in the kinetic slot, but ideally it's strand and trench barrel. A 25% and 50% damage boost is hard to pass up. The Excalibur could be replaced with a rapid fire glaive, but you'd lose some of the ability to generate light energy along with some survivability. The sword is flexible and not truly necessary, but it's fun. Foe Tracer on the class item is flexible. It's a 25% damage boost, but it's not fully necessary. You can run pretty much anything there. If you want to play into the full tank fantasy, you'll want Surturachne. If you're going more for skirmishing, Syntheseps will allow you to play a little more into the dip in and out of the fray style and allow your threaded spike to kill lower tier ads more successfully. I think that's about it. If you decide to use this build, be a little careful, but not too careful. Thanks for watching. If this video is helpful to you, please consider liking and subscribing for more content. Thanks, and have a good one.